اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحت كل إسان. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النكام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تعتى الرجاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لكل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفئ بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلحمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني باسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم أسألك سؤال من استدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وأزمع فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكروك وزهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائه ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي قبيح بالحسنة مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهل وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترت وكم من فاضح من البلاء أكلت وكم من إصار وكيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من صناع جميل لست أحلامه نشرتا. اللهم أزم بلائي وأفرت بي سوء حالي وكسرت بي أعمالي وكدأت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد أعمالي وخدتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفزحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تؤاجلني بالعقوبة على ما أمنته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكسرة شهواتي وغفلتي فكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيره أسأله كشف زري والنظر في أمري. إلهي وغرني بما أحوى أسأله على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدوده وخالفت بعض أوامره فلك الحجة علي في جميع منكسرا مستكيلا مستغفرا منيبا مكرا مذئنا مغترفا لا أجد مفرا مكان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ذري وفكني من شد وصاكي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني وركة جلدي ودكة عزمي. يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك وصالف برك بي. يا إلهي سيدي وربي أتراك مؤذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انطوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق ترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تزيئ من ربيتها أو تبعد من أدنيتها أو تشرد من آويتها أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادحا وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا وعلى زمان أحوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارح أسعت إلى أوطان تأبدك طائعا وأشارت باستغفارك مذئنا ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك يا كريم يا رب يا كريم يا رب يا كريم يا رب وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء مكروه قليل مكسور يسير بقاء كثير مدته فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين يا إلهي يا ربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أزج أبكي لأليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته فلئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائي وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ربي صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وحبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفو فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأزجن إليك بين أهلها زجيج الآمنين ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولا أبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين ولا أنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية آمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يزج إليك زجيج مؤمل لرحمته ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيده ويتوسل إليك بربوبيته يا مولاي. فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما صرف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يعمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفا؟ أم كيف يتكلكل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقا؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في إتكه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات ما ذلك الظن به ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحدي وكزيت به من إخلاد معاندي لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مكرا ولا مقاما لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأن تجل ثناؤك كنت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون إلهي وسيدي. فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالكزية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته أخفيته أو أظهرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي وكنت أنت رقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر حزي من كل خير تنزل أو إحسان تفضل أو بر تنشر أو برزق تبسط أو ذنب تغفر أو خطأ تستر يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك ركي يا من بيده ناصيتي يا أليما بذري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفكري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وعظم صفاتك واسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بك مأمورا وبخدمتك موصولا وأعمالي عندك مقبولا حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من عليه مؤولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قوي على خدمتك جوارحي واشدد على العزيمة جوانحي وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في اتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرع إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في المباررين واشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وادنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين واجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين اللهم ومن أرادني بالسوء فارده ومن قادني فكده واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نسيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وخسهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجود لي بجودك واحتف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك يا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأكلني أسرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك كزيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وزمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نسبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت فبعزتك استجبني دعائي وبلغني مناي ولا تعت من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وصلاحه البكاء يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النكم يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بي ما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الخطبة الخامسة والعشرون خطبة number 25. ما هي إلا الكوفة أقبضها وأبسطها إن لم تكوني إلا أنت تهب أعاصيرك فقبحك الله. In our Nahjul Balagha sessions, we reached khutbah number 25. Last week, I gave a brief introduction. Well, it wasn't very brief, actually. It took up the whole lecture, but it was an important one, one on history and one on some of the circumstances during that time period between the Battle of Nahrawan and the ending of Battle of Nahrawan, all the way till the Shahada of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, the martyrdom of Imam Ali alayhi salam. So that time period is a very important one. It's a sensitive one. It's one in which Muawiyah gets to work, because after Imam Ali, as I explained in our last session, after Imam Ali alayhi salam, after Imam Ali tried to go after Muawiyah, and then the Battle of Nahrawan took place, and he had to fight the Khawarij first and then move on to Muawiyah. Although there weren't too many deaths on Imam Ali's side, maximum 10 people, reports tell us, but even though that was the case, and he had something around, I think, once again, based on the reports, about 14,000, still the people, they got tired. They just said, you know what, we fought, let's just go back to Kufa. We're not too far away from Kufa. These are things that I explained in our last session. When this happens, Muawiyah knows that the army of Imam Ali is weakening, is slowing down. And so this is where he gets to work, where he sends people here and there to go and strike with armies, strike that jurisdiction of Imam Ali, different cities that are in his jurisdiction, strike them and go back to Sham. So what happens is there's instability now, there's chaos slowly growing within the Muslim lands. And who is the Khalifa of the time? Who's the one who has to ensure that there is order, there is stability and calm and security and safety in these lands? Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. I think, brothers and sisters, this part of Imam Ali's life might be one of the most madhloom times of his life, in which he was the most madhloom. Why? Because you can sense it now. You can sense that Amir al-Mu'mineen is becoming more and more alone. He's more and more gharib he's becoming. And through his words also you can tell this. So what happens is a person by the name, one of those people that is sent by Muawiyah to cause damage and harm to the Muslim lands, to the people, and to bring instability to them, is a person by the name of Busr bin Abi Artah, or sometimes they just call him Busr bin Artah. Busr usually is a person that is hated by people, but there are still some who might say, hey, we're not sure, and things like that. For them, I mean, we don't really have much to say to them, but the rest of the Muslims usually don't have a very negative perspective of him and perception of him. As I said, also, some have attributed up to 30,000 deaths to him, 30,000 lives lost because of him. Anyway, this person goes to different cities and causes as much damage possible. One of those cities that he goes to is Yemen, the city of Yemen, and which is, of course, in the south of the Arabian Peninsula, and whose capital is Sana'a, and one of the most important and strategic locations there is Sana'a. So the story goes like this. Last week, of course, I went through the different cities that he attacked, but now we want to focus on Yemen and Sana'a, because this is what the khutbah, it's after Sana'a that this khutbah was recited for the people, or said to the people. So it says that there was a group that were in Sana'a. They were followers of Uthman. They made a big deal about Uthman getting killed. Imam Ali has two people there that are the governors. Well, one of them is the governor. One of them is the military commander that's there. Ubaidullah bin Abbas is the governor, and a person by the name of Sa'id bin Namran. So we have Ubaidullah bin Abbas and a person by the name of Sa'id. This Ubaidullah is an interesting figure as well. Ubaidullah bin Abbas is the brother of Abdullah ibn Abbas. Abdullah bin Abbas, the grand companion of Rasulullah and also companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ubaidullah is a controversial figure, though, the brother of Abdullah bin Abbas. But in this time, he was on the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen. But in the time of Imam Hassan, there's some controversy that surrounds him, and mainstream believes that he defected to Muawiyah's side. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, so this is Ubaidullah bin Abbas, governor of Sana'a, governor of, let's say, Yemen even. After Muhammad bin Abi Bakr is killed by the forces of Muawiyah and the henchmen of Muawiyah, stuff goes south. And eventually, Egypt falls to Muawiyah's forces. It's during this time that the people of Sana'a, these munafiqeen, some of them who had given bay'ah to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, but in a way that it was out of nifaq, it was hypocritical, these people start rising up as well. We want Uthman to be avenged, things like that. This death of Uthman and assassination of Uthman has always been a problem, unfortunately. And it is one of the main things that took place that really destroyed the Muslim Ummah afterwards. Everyone who wants to fight Amir al-Mu'mineen is going to fight him with the excuse that, we want to avenge Uthman. Anyway, these people, they're put into prison because they're causing chaos and they're after anarchy. What happens is, in the prison, they get letters out to people. And they get their letters to people to stand up, and they are mobilizing people against the governor of there, which was Ubaidullah bin Abbas. And so people start joining them, and it becomes a problem. So Ubaidullah, he writes a letter to Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Khalifa, like, help me out here, do something. And Amir al-Mu'mineen writes a letter to these people, and he says, listen, he reminds them of their Islamic duty. He reminds them not to do this, not to, what they're doing is wrong, and so on and so forth. And they say, listen, we don't have a problem as long as you remove these two individuals from power, we're fine. They say that, and at the same time, it says they write letters to Muawiyah letting him know what's going on and how there's instability now, and there are people rioting in that area. And so now Muawiyah knows as well. And this is where Muawiyah, he sends Busr, that bloodthirsty general, he sends him to go and cause problems. And as I said last session, like, he caused the whole line of fire he makes, really going from the north, from more north than Yemen all the way down to Yemen. He causes havoc and brings about havoc into those lands. All right, so now, what does he do? For example, on his way to Yemen, he gets his hands on the sons of Ubaydullah, which are little kids, and he slaughters them. It's a very sad story. He slaughters them. And it's crazy. Now, this part of the story is crazy because Ubaydullah later on sees Busr. Remember I said he's controversial? He sees Busr when he is going and defecting to Muawiyah, and still this doesn't stop him from defecting. That's crazy. According once again to historical reports. And what my understanding of mainstream history is in this regard, that yes, he did defect, and he did see the killers of his son Busr bin Abi Arta. He saw him, but his dunya was more important to him, and he didn't do anything about it. He was willing to make that compromise of getting revenge from Busr to keep Muawiyah happy, and so he can be on Muawiyah's side. They also killed Ubaidullah's son-in-law as well. So Busr kills the people, and he's just killing everybody, by the way, but I'm just saying. Now this Ubaidullah and Sa'id, who are the governor and commander of Sana'a in Yemen, they flee. He puts somebody in his place, they flee. Busr eventually comes to Sana'a and kills that person who was filling in for Ubaidullah. Ubaidullah and Sa'id, they make it to Kufa and to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. What does Amir al-Mu'mineen do? He scolds them for deserting their posts. He scolds them and he goes up onto the minbar. Remember I said this last session, that Amir al-Mu'mineen, he pointed out to the people later when they were being attacked by the forces of Muawiyah. He said, you guys didn't take the offensive, and now they're coming after you in your own homes and lands. This is your own fault. This is your own doing. So here he goes up on the minbar and he begins this khutbah. So that was the context of this khutbah. He says, مَا هِيَ إِلَّا الْكُوفَةِ أَقْبِضُهَا وَأَبْسُطُهَا. He's angry with the Kufans. He says, all I have left is this Kufa that I can, use in one way or another, and, tell it to rise, tell it to sit, and do whatever. The problem is this Kufa has now already proven that it's not worth it. It's not worthy anymore. It's not a worthy group, and it's not a worthy people. The Kufans are not a worthy people. Why? Because they did not continue the battle to Muawiyah. And so they left him, Imam Ali, alone, and this all is happening as a result of that. As a result of their betrayal, let's say. And their shortcoming. So Amir al-Mu'mineen is scolding. He says, all I have is Kufa left. Like the main army that I have is in Kufa. But there's a problem with Kufa. The problem is that إِن لَمْ تَكُونِ إِلَّا أَنْتَ تَهُبُّ أَعَصِيرُكَ فَقَبَّحَكِ اللَّهُ. If all that I'm left with is this Kufa, while it comes with a bunch of baggage and a bunch of storms and typhoons, it's not something that will calmly, just listen. It comes with a lot of baggage. Then he curses it. He says, he says, "Qabbahakillah, may you be made ugly, O Kufa." It's a curse, In Farsi we say nifreen, as if. May Allah make you ugly faced. In other words, he's cursing the Kufans and Kufa itself. If you are all I have, with all the baggage that you come with, then may God get rid of you, as if, And then he recites poetry. He says, لَعَمْرُ أَبِيكَ الْخَيْرِ يَا عَمْرُ إِنَّنِي عَلَى وَضْرٍ or عَلى وَضَرٍ مِنْ ذَا الْإِنَاءِ قَلِيلِ. There's a line of poetry that he recites that has to do with some other story, but it means that I swear by your good father, O Amr. So this poetry is about someone by the name of Amr, but the Imam is using it here and taking inspiration from it. It says, by your father, I swear, by your righteous father, O Amr, that I only have a wadar, that all I have from this container is wadar. So what's going on here? Wadar is that little bit of oil or a little bit of water that's left in a pot, on the walls of a pot, at the bottom of a pot. When you dump it and you get rid of all of its contents, then the day it's not going to be super clean. You still have to, wash it, right, to get rid of everything that was in it. That little bit that's left in there, which is really worthless, that's why we wash it away. He says that that's all that's left for me. In other words, something totally worthless, totally useless. Yeah, that means that these Kufans, they're the ones that I have left to, be able to enforce Islam in these vast lands of Islam. That's all I'm left with. You can sense the sadness of Amir al-Mu'mineen here. And it breaks your heart because you can tell that this is it. It seems that things were hanging by a thread, and that thread was Kufa and the Kufans. And so once that thread snaps, then everything is going down the drain. Yeah. So brothers and sisters, those of us that have heard all the time that the Kufans this, the Kufans that, this is where it begins. It all begins after Nahrawan. Not after Nahrawan. It completely starts after Nahrawan, but it was already there in the Battle of Siffin when they forced Amir al-Mu'mineen to stop the battle. But even then, it was still kind of good. It was going good. Really, after Nahrawan, the way the people just deserted Imam Ali, if you remember, I mentioned this last time, they left him. It went from 14,000 to 300 who were left with him right after the Battle of Nahrawan. Nahrawan was just a stop for Amir al-Mu'mineen. They were supposed to move on to Muawiyah, right? Only 10 died from Amir al-Mu'mineen's side, but thousands from the Khawarij were all extinguished, exterminated. Yeah? But this is where it all is, brothers and sisters. Amir al-Mu'mineen sees the collapse of Islam and the Muslim lands to the hands into the hands of Muawiyah and the likes of Muawiyah and his followers. He's seeing it now. Unbitu busran. He says, I've been made aware that Busr qad ittala al-Yaman. He has conquered Yemen and overtaken Yemen. وإني والله لأظن أن هؤلاء القوم سيدالون منكم. And I feel like, and it seems like that group of people is going to eventually take power from you as well. Don't sit here thinking that you're in Kufa, all the power is here. It has now turned into the capital of Islam because that's where the Khalifa resides. Don't think that it's going to always be like this. You don't make the sacrifices, you're going to lose what you have, and you're going to lose what you've been blessed with. The power that we have right now is short-lived because you didn't do what you did. I see it, he says. I see it coming that Allah is going to take from you that which you had, that blessing of the hukuma. Sayudaluna minkum. Why is it that I see this? I think he mentions about 3 or 4 things here. Amir al-Mu'mineen mentions that proves to the people who are listening to him why they're going to lose everything in a short, maybe in a short period of time. Why? 1. باجتماعهم على باطلهم وتفرقهم على وتفرقكم عن حقكم. Number 1, when it comes to their batil, and this is a famous line that we're always hearing, and it's an important one as well, because of their ijtima', them coming together over what? Over their batil and falsehood. This is crazy. Like, this is something to think about. Right? They see the short-lived temporal world and they're like, you know what? This is worth it for us. Let us all come together over this, which for a person with an Islamic perspective says this is nonsense. A person with a business perspective, will say, oh, let's grab what we can right now, right? In Farsi, we have a saying that you stick to the cash. You don't go for credit, all right? Credit, who knows who's going to give it, when that's going to actually turn into cash later. Right now, if you can get your hands on cash, just go for it. Just do it, So these people, they look at it from this perspective. But from an Islamic perspective, it should be different. Now, at the end of the day, they are coming together over batil, while you, Kufans, tafarruqikum, your disunity. But over what? What's the reason for your disunity? An haqqikum. You are disunited while that which is supposed to bring you guys together is haqq. You're with haqq, but you're disunited. Of course, they're disunited. Why? Because they don't listen to their leader, right? Haqq is with you, yet you're not together. Batil is with them, they're together. Number one. Number two, وَبِمَعْصِيَتِكُمْ إِمَامِكُمْ فِي الْحَقِّ وَطَاعَتِهِمْ إِمَامَهُمْ فِي الْبَاطِلِ. Like, this is so sad. Because of, number two, because of your disobedience towards your Imam of Haqq, or in the Haqq that he is, calling you towards, right? So you disobeyed him. He's calling you, you don't answer his call. وَطَاعَتِهِمْ. But they, on the other hand, have obedience and ta'ah towards their leader and Imam, yeah, who is calling them to batil, fil batil. Number two. Number three, this one's horrible, okay? وَبِأَدَائِهِمُ الْأَمَانَةَ إِلَى صَاحِبِهِمْ وَخِيَانَتِكُمْ. Number three, that these people that are on the side of batil, they are on the side that is not Islamic. They're the I don't know, they're the business people. They look at it from this world's perspective. Yeah. When it comes to that, they have ada'ul amana. They make sure that what is entrusted to them, yes, is preserved, is protected, and is taken care of. While you have done khiyana, and you have betrayed the trust that is with you and that your Imam has put in you. But what's going on here? What does it exactly mean, that trust? Here, some people, some of the Mufassirin have said, and I think personally this is a good interpretation and explanation here, that it says that what is meant by the amana here is that, look, Imam Ali's people scattered across the Muslim lands, it's as if they could care less about the people and what the people want. What was it all about? It was about themselves. It was about their relatives, accumulating wealth, making sure that what their ego wants goes through, these kinds of things. So they have a trust, which is the Baytul Mal, the treasury of the people, I don't know, the resources, even the manpower that they have, right? They have all of that. But instead of bringing all of that together to make sure that they support Imam Ali alayhi salam and support the people, they're after their own agenda, their own whatever interests. But when we look at Muawiyah's side, it's the exact opposite. On Muawiyah's side, it looks like everyone is really, it's just everyone's so livelily bringing everything they can together, putting their power together, their resources together, their wealth together, right? So this amana that Allah has put with everyone, yeah, those who are in power, the people, yeah, the masses, the people on Imam Ali's side, they have not done what they're supposed to do with it, while those who are on batil, they they have brought it all together and done exactly what you're supposed to do if you have resources, is to help your leader. Well, of course, for them it's Muawiyah, their leader, to help him do what he needs to do. It's very interesting how the Kufans, what happened to them. It's very interesting. وَبِصَلَاحِهِمْ فِي بِلَادِهِمْ وَفَسَادِكُمْ. And how in their lands, they're after salah, they're after reform, they're after goodness. But when it comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen's side, all you find is fasad and corruption amongst the people. It's very sad that Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying these things, especially after the ones that were in Yemen in charge, like Ubaidullah bin Abbas, they deserted their jurisdictions and they left, and people were killed as a result. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, you stay there, and even if you get killed, but don't make me look weak, And so it's after he scolded them who have come to Kufa to Amir al-Mu'mineen that he goes on the minbar and he's saying these things now to the Kufans. So he did scold the people that were in charge of Yemen, but then he addresses the Kufans themselves, because in the end, Amir al-Mu'mineen knows, and they know that it's their fault because they did not continue the journey with him after Nahrawan to go and fight Muawiyah. All right. فَلَوْ ائْتَمَنْتُ أَحَدَكُمْ عَلَى قَعْبٍ لَخَشِيتُ أَنْ يَذْهَبَ بِعَلَاقَتِهِ. He says, look, they were such Ameens and you were such a not non-Ameens. They were so trustworthy, those who are on batil, and you all who are on haqq are so unreliable and cannot be trusted that if I was to trust one of you with a qa'ab, which is like a small, like worthless pot or something, whatever it is, لَخَشِيتُ أَن يَذْهَبَ بِعَلَاقَتِهِ. I'm afraid that you're not going to give it back to me. Like even something that's not very valuable, this is what you've become. So I can't even trust you with the smallest things, let alone with the big things. I can't trust you with the big things even. For sure, I can't. Why? You can't help me with the small things. There are the smallest expectations that I have of you. You're not delivering on those. So I can't even trust you with that, let alone bigger things. This is you, O Kufa. So Busr does what he needs to do. The followers of Muawiyah do what they need to do. Amir al-Mu'mineen points out the mistakes. He points out this idea that he's upset with everybody, but he doesn't stop there. Now, this is the scariest part, actually. This is the scariest part because you find Amir al-Mu'mineen, you find him speaking of the Kufans every now and then. Now, I'm not sure in all those times, I don't remember right now. Is it true that in all those times that he speaks about the Kufans, does he curse them and does he curse them in Nifreen in Farsi we say, or no? That's the question. But here in this khutbah, once Imam Ali knows that things are going, I mean, they're done. I mean, really, it seems like it's done now. It's like almost over. And he knows that it's the fault of the Kufans, right? Then he does la'an of them. Not la'an that he says la'natullah alaykum, but he does dua against them. And that is the meaning of la'na. The real meaning of la'na and the literal meaning of la'na, when someone does la'na on somebody, is they do dua so that God doesn't answer their prayers, or they do dua against them, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's la'na. So here in this part of the khutbah, Imam Ali does la'na as well. He does la'an. He does dua against the Kufans, which is like, it really sends shivers down your spine. Of course, we have to understand, before I actually get into this, we have to understand that in our hadiths, we have times where the Imams are praising the Kufans, other times the Imams are complaining about the Kufans, and really just destroying them. And so we have to understand these are in different times. So this idea, personally, I think, this is my opinion based on some of our scholars as well, that it's not that Kufa has always been cursed, that the curse of Ahlul Bayt is on Kufa forever. Even after Ashura, during the time of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam, for example, lots of our hadiths, the Kufans were the ones who narrated them, the Ash'arites, and so on. So the Ash'arites of Kufa, they're the ones who later on they moved to Qum. They're the ones who transmitted the hadiths of Ahlul Bayt. And Kufa is one of those places that during Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq's time, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, he praises the Kufans. Yeah. So there are different time periods. What it goes down to, brothers and sisters, is all this, is all about how much obedience of Allah and your Imam is happening. If disobedience is happening, okay, now it's cursed. If obedience is happening, then there's blessings and there's rahmah and positive du'as from Ahlul Bayt for those people. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that the land, because I've heard this before, some people believe that the curse of Ahlul Bayt is on Kufa forever, for all time. I don't think that can be established, with that much confidence. But yes, I've heard some people say that. Okay, anyway, Allahumma, so this is his dua. Allahumma inni qad maliltuhum wa malluni wa sa'imtuhum wa sa'imuni. He says, oh Allah, this is really hurtful. This really makes you want to cry for Amir al-Mu'mineen. I mean, We're sitting here all these years later, of course, and we wish that we could have 2 minutes with Amirul Mu'mineen. The people of that time, they were with him for so long. But look at what he's saying. He's complaining to Allah. He says, "Oh Allah, verily, I'm tired of them and they're tired of me. I'm fed up with them and they're fed up with me." I can understand Amir al-Mu'mineen saying that he's fed up with a people, he's tired of a people, but it's something else for the people to also be tired of him, and he acknowledges it as well. He says, they're tired of me too, you know? So he's getting this, this is like introductory for the actual dua that he's going to do. And this is the dua now. With a tired, heart, he says, فَأَبْدِلْنِي بِهِمْ خَيْرًا مِّنْهُمْ وَأَبْدِلْهُمْ بِي شَرًّا مِّنِّي. This is the part that really is scary. He says, "Oh Allah, replace them with better than them for me. Give me better people than them. Give me better followers than them." Okay, that's good. That's not too bad, right? But then look at the rest. وَأَبْدِلْهُمْ بِي شَرًّا مِّنِّي. Replace me with someone worse for them. He didn't just say replace them with someone better for me. He says replace me also with someone worse and horrible for them. This is that dua part. This is that part of the dua that's very scary. That they didn't know. They didn't know my worth. They took me for granted. They didn't listen. Because you have to listen and know the worth of something in practice, right? So he says they didn't know my value. Not only take them from me and give me better, take me from them and replace me with someone worse for them. And so, of course, history shows us that this actually happened. I mean, what happened after Amir al-Mu'mineen, yes, is that, yes, Imam Hassan came for a little bit, but that is over. Muawiyah ruled for 20 years, brothers and sisters, for 20 years. And then Yazid comes, and then after that, the Marwans and the Abdullah bin Zubairs, and after that, the Marwanites and the descendants and progeny of Marwan, and the generals that they had, like Hajjaj bin Yusuf. Are you kidding me? Like one of the most horrible ever, that everyone says was a tyrant. These people, one after another, they come and they take over. Yeah. So it seems that the dua of the Imam for the Kufans of that time, it was fulfilled. Yeah. Allahumma mith qulubahum kama yumathu al-milhu fil ma'. Oh Allah. So the dua continues. Dissolve their hearts the same way salt dissolves in water. Here they've said that what is meant by that is that Imam Ali, when he says dissolve their hearts, when we say in English, like my heart was broken, when does your heart break? When a tragedy befalls you, a calamity befalls you, things like that. Right? Hardship, yeah? And so the Imam is asking for hardship for these people, tragedy for these people. It's not every day, brothers and sisters, that an Imam is pushed to that point that he does dua like this against you. But at the end of the day, we know that they deserved it because they were that link. They were that helping hand. They were that aid that Imam Ali needed to really finish the job. And it seems that he could have, and he was confident that he can finish the job of Muawiyah, but they did not show up. They did not deliver. And so Islam, at least from the point of view of the Shia school of thought, has reached this point because they didn't show up when they needed to show up. Yeah. Ama wallah, لوددت أن لي بكم ألف فارس من بني فراس ابن غنم. I wish, and I think this is the last line, and then he ends with a line of poetry. He says, I just wish, instead of all of you thousands, yeah, I had 1,000 of those horseback riders of Bani Firas bin Ghanm. I'll talk about them a little bit. 1,000 of them is better than the 10,000 or 15,000 of you. And then he recites this poetry. He says, هنالك لو دعوت أتاك منهم فوارس مثل أرمية الحميم. that it means that if you were to call them, then they would come to you, the horseback riders. Yeah, they would come to you, these horseback riders, like the clouds of the summer. It's in summer when you see a cloud, especially in the south, right? In Texas, for example, you see that one little cloud on a summer day, like, wow, impossible, right? That cloud comes and goes fast. It doesn't do anything. It's so swift, right? So he's using the swiftness of the clouds of the summer to describe these horseback riders, these fighters of Bani Firas. Yeah. He says, I wish I had 1,000 of them. And so here I want to share this story with you about this Banu Firas, who they were, that Amir al-Mu'minin is making reference to, so we understand their altruism and their selflessness when it comes to what's important, when it comes to the battlefield, for example, when it comes to their ghira. There's a person, he is one of the heads of this tribe, okay? And we can understand why Amir al-Mu'minin loves these people so much. His name was Rabi'a bin Mukaddam, if I'm reading it correctly. Anyway, this Rabi'a, his story goes like this. And it's because of these things that Amir al-Mu'minin wants them on, he wishes he had some of these guys. This Rabi'a, it says that he was always a person that would stand up for the women and children. And so one time, that tribe that was opposing him and didn't like him, when they actually catch him with women and children, and it's only him that is going to be able to defend these women and children that he's with, and the name of that tribe is Bani Salim. So what happens is, some of these riders of Bani Salim, when they ambush him or surround him or whatever, and he wasn't too close, of course, but he knows that time is coming, that he's going to be killed, and these women and children are going to be taken prisoner. And he is also a little apparently close to the city or the village or wherever it was that his tribe was residing in. He wants to get these women and children safely there. But the enemy, these riders of Bani Salim, they shoot an arrow which strikes him, and it's fatal. Okay, it says that it hit him in the heart. Actually, what does he do? This is very beautiful. It says that he could have, when you get struck by an arrow or you get shot by a bullet, usually it's hard for you to stay standing or sitting. Usually you will fall. And so it says that he didn't let himself fall. How? It says he took his spear, yeah, and he stuck it into the ground. And then the handle of the spear, he leaned on it so that he can just stay mounted on his horse and doesn't fall. And he kept pointing to the women and children which way to go and to run away. And these people, because he was a warrior, these riders of Bani Salim, they didn't know that this person now, eventually enough blood has gone from him and he's dead now. So while he's in pain, while he's struggling with his life, he's telling the women and children to go, and they take a route where they're not going to get captivated. But at the same time, he's standing there, making it seem like, hey, I'm still here, no one can attack, until he finally dies. And they still don't know he's dead. And so they shoot another arrow eventually at his horse, and his horse falls. Once his horse falls, then of course he falls as well, and they know that he's dead, but it's too late. Those women and children, they made it to safety. And this reminds you of that verse that says, كَم مِّن فِئَةٍ قَلِيلَةٍ غَلَبَتْ فِئَةً كَثِيرَةً بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. Wow, it's not always about numbers, the verse says. Sometimes it's about even the smaller number is able to make big steps in history, and make history and create a beautiful history. Why? As a result of the altruism and the selflessness that they exhibit and exercise. So Imam Ali, this is what he wants. He says, if only I had 1,000 of these people. In other words, if I have this, that's what it takes to destroy Muawiyah, but I just don't have it. And this is really one of those points of madlumiyah of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And this is it, brothers and sisters. This is it. If Bibi Zainab was taken to Kufa, and she spoke and she scolded and disparaged the Kufans. It's because of these things. Now, of course, history repeated itself again, and the Kufans didn't show up and deliver again with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. They didn't show up, and the Bibi Zainab calls them out on it again. Why is it the case? Why is she going to go at them that hard? Is because there's a background, there's a whole story. How many times are you, O Kufans, going to fail before eventually you are grateful for the blessings of Allah upon you? You had Ali ibn Abi Talib, you were not grateful. Imam Ali was there for 5 years as your Khalifa. No, you weren't grateful in the end. Imam al-Hasan for a short period of time, and then he's taken up, and then Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. None of them you are grateful for, and this is the result. And the curse of Allah is upon you, O Kufans. But it's interesting how the same city of Kufa, later on, of course, I will say this, that the Ash'arites who came later, they were originally, if I'm not mistaken, from Yemen. But they moved and migrated to Kufa, and I think from there they went to Qum. These people, they come in and they deliver, they show up, and they make sacrifices to deliver the heritage of Tashayyu, the heritage of and legacy of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam to those who come after, and then all of a sudden we find that the Imams are speaking highly of the Kufans again. Yes. What I get out of all of this is two things. Number one is what really matters is obedience and disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number one. Number two is gratefulness of what we have, and to make sure that we live up to what it takes to be grateful for our blessings, or else Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to leave us always with the same blessings. Things will change. Amir al-Mu'mineen left this dunya, Imam Hassan left, Imam Hussein left. What else could you ask for? What else could you ask for? Three of the best Imams, the greatest Imams. Of course, they are all kulluhum nurun wahid, they're all one light and all of that. But we find that the Imams had a special respect for Ashabul Kisa, that our Imams had a special respect for Imam Ali alayhi salam, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein. But these blessings were taken eventually from Ahl Kufa, and that dua of Imam Ali eventually was fulfilled with those tyrants that came afterwards. We seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we ask Him to give us tawfiq to live lives that will eventually yield the satisfaction of Allah and the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Ahlul Bayt. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And we don't have any questions, so I will end here. Inshallah, keep us in your du'as. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.